Captain Vex's tar stood on the bridge of his massive ship, the Astral Dominion. His green scales caught the light from the control panels as he watched the small blue planet on the main screen. Earth looked peaceful and quiet from space. The captain had done this job many times before. Find primitive worlds, study them, report back to the Empire. It was simple work. Another backward planet, said his science officer Thekmon. The tall alien had 4 arms and gray skin that looked like stone. The readings show basic technology, metal tools, simple machines. They might have electricity. Vextar nodded. This was normal. Most species started the same way. First, they learned to make fire, then metal, then simple machines. After thousands of years, they might reach space. The Empire had seen this pattern on every world they found. Any weapons? Vextar asked. Primitive ones, chemical explosives. Nothing that could hurt our ships. Thekmon touched his control panel. They split atoms for power, but badly. Very dangerous to themselves. The captain smiled. Splitting atoms was always the first step toward real power. But young species always did it wrong. They made bombs first, then slowly learned to make safe energy. It took time to grow wise. On Earth, Dr. Kai Jin sat in his laboratory at Seoul National University. The young man stared at numbers on his computer screen. Something was wrong with the math. The gravitational readings near Jupiter made no sense. Hana, come look at this, he called to his friend. Hana walked over from her desk. She was working on a new type of computer that used quantum particles. The machine was strange. It could solve problems that normal computers could not handle. What is it? She asked. The gravity readings are wrong. There's something big near Jupiter, but we can't see it. Hana looked at the numbers. Maybe your equipment is broken. I checked 3 times. The readings are real. Kai Jin pointed at the screen. Something massive is there, but it's invisible. Across the city, Tae-min was in his materials laboratory. He held a small piece of metal in his hands. The metal was special. He had made it by arranging atoms in a new pattern. It was stronger than steel, but lighter than aluminum. The metal could also change its properties when electricity passed through it. This shouldn't work, he said to himself. But it does. Tae-min had always been good at making new materials. He didn't follow the normal rules. Instead, he used his feelings and guessed what might work. Other scientists said this was wrong, but his materials were better than anything made the normal way. Back on the Astral Dominion, Vextar was reading reports about Earth. The Empire had been watching this planet for a long time. They knew humans had discovered fire, metal, and electricity. The humans had even started to explore space with simple rockets. Standard development pattern, Vextar told his crew. They're about 500 years from real space travel. Perfect timing for first contact. The Empire had rules about first contact. They only talked to species that were ready. Too early, and the primitives would be afraid. Too late, and they might become dangerous. The timing had to be perfect. Should we send the greeting message? Asked Thekmon. Not yet. Run a full scan first. I want to know everything about their technology. The ship's powerful sensors swept across Earth. They looked at every city, every factory, every machine. The readings came back normal. Humans had cars, planes, and computers. They had power plants and communication systems. Everything was exactly what the Empire expected from a primitive species. But something bothered Thekmon. Some of the readings were strange. The humans had created materials that shouldn't exist with their level of technology. Their computers were more advanced than they should be, and their understanding of quantum physics was surprisingly deep. Captain, Thekmon said slowly, there are some unusual readings. What kind of unusual? Their computer systems are more complex than expected, and some of their materials, I can't understand how they made them. Vextar waved a clawed hand. Primitives sometimes get lucky. They stumble onto advanced ideas by accident. It doesn't mean they understand what they're doing. This was true. The Empire had seen it before. Young species sometimes discovered advanced concepts through pure chance, but they never understood the deeper science behind their discoveries. They were like children playing with dangerous toys. On Earth, Kai Jin was getting more worried about the gravitational readings. He had called other scientists around the world. They were all seeing the same thing. Something massive was hiding near Jupiter. It has to be a ship, Hana said. A really big ship. Whose ship? No country on Earth has technology like that. Maybe it's not from Earth. Kai Jin looked at his friend. The idea seemed crazy, but the evidence was clear. Something large and invisible was in their solar system, and it was moving. We need to tell someone, Kai Jin said. Who would believe us? Before Kai Jin could answer, his quantum computer started making noise. Hana ran to check it. The machine was receiving signals. Strange signals from space. It's picking up transmissions, Hana said, but the language is unknown. Kai Jin joined her at the computer. The quantum machine was translating the signals automatically. Somehow it understood the alien language. How is it doing that? Kai Jin asked. I don't know. I programmed it to learn patterns. But this is impossible. It's translating a language it's never heard before. The translated messages were about Earth, about humans. The aliens were discussing whether to make contact. They called humans primitives and talked about standard contact procedures. They're watching us, Kai Jin said quietly. On the astral dominion, Vexatar made his decision. The scans were complete. Humans were ready for first contact. They had basic space technology. They understood science. They weren't completely savage anymore. Prepare the greeting message, he ordered. Standard primitive species protocol. The Empire had done this thousands of times. First, they would appear in the sky above the planet. Then they would send a simple message of peace. The primitives would be afraid at first, but slowly they would understand that the Empire came in friendship. Message ready, Captain, said the communications officer. Send it on all frequencies. Make sure every human can hear it. The Astral Dominion dropped its invisibility shields. The massive ship appeared in Earth's sky above South Korea. It was 5 kilometers long and covered with lights. People on the ground stopped and pointed. Some screamed. Others ran. The message went out in simple terms. Greetings, humans of Earth. We are the Galactic Empire. We come in peace. Do not be afraid. We wish to talk to your leaders. Vextar expected silence. Primitive species never responded right away. They needed time to understand, time to overcome their fear. Usually, it took several days before they sent a response. But his communications officer suddenly looked surprised. Captain, we're receiving a transmission. Already? That's very fast. Sir, they're responding in perfect Galactic Standard. Vextar's blood went cold. Galactic Standard was the Empire's official language. It took years to learn. No primitive species should know it. That's impossible. Play the message. A calm human voice filled the bridge. The voice spoke in flawless Galactic Standard without any accent. Greetings, Captain Vextar of the Astral Dominion. This is Ambassador Yi-Jun of Earth. We have been expecting your arrival. Please accept our invitation to land at these coordinates. We have prepared a proper reception for your delegation. The message included precise landing coordinates and detailed information about Earth's atmosphere. Information that should have taken days to gather. Vextar stared at the screen in shock. This had never happened before. Primitive species didn't know about the Empire. They didn't speak Galactic Standard, and they certainly didn't know the names of Empire ships or captains. How do they know my name? Vextar whispered. Dekmon was frantically checking his instruments. Sir, I'm detecting massive energy signatures across their planet. Their technology readings they're not making sense. On Earth, Ambassador Yi-Jun closed the communication channel. He turned to his team in the Seoul Contact Center. The Adra-E room was filled with advanced equipment that shouldn't exist on a primitive world. Phase 1 complete, Yi-Jun said calmly. They've made contact. Now we can begin showing them what humans are really capable of. Dr. Kai Jin watched from his laboratory as the alien ship hovered over the city. His quantum computer was still translating alien transmissions, but now it was doing something else. It was accessing the alien ship's computer systems. How is it doing that? Hana asked in amazement. I don't know, but it's learning everything about their technology. On the Astral Dominion, Vextar tried to understand what was happening. His crew was reporting impossible readings from Earth. The humans had technology that couldn't exist. Their computers were more advanced than Empire systems. Their material science was beyond anything in Imperial databases. This doesn't follow the pattern, Vextar said to himself. This is all wrong. Dekmon looked up from his controls. Captain, there's something else. Their computer systems just accessed our ship's database. What? How? I don't know, sir. But they now have complete information about Empire technology and star charts. Vextar realized that everything he knew about primitive species was wrong. The humans weren't primitive at all. They were something else entirely, something the Empire had never encountered before. And somehow, they had been waked. Ambassador Yi Jun stood calmly in the reception hall as the alien delegation entered. Captain Vextar looked nervous. His green scales seemed darker than before. Behind him walked 3 other Empire officers, all looking confused and worried. "Welcome to Earth," Yi Jun said in perfect galactic standard. "I hope your journey was comfortable." Vextar stopped walking. "How do you know our language?" "No primitive species has ever learned galactic standard," Yi Jun smiled. "We prefer the term developing species rather than primitive, and we have our ways of learning languages." The captain's science officer, Thekmon, held a scanning device. The machine was making strange noises. "Sir, the readings are still impossible. Their technology signatures don't match any known development pattern." "Please, sit down," Yi Jun gestured to chairs that had been prepared. "We have much to discuss." As the aliens sat, Yi Jun touched a small device on his wrist. Instantly, the room filled with holographic displays showing star maps, mathematical equations, and detailed scans of Empire ships. "We know you've been watching us for quite some time," Yi Jun continued. "Your observation posts near the asteroid belt have been monitoring our radio signals for decades." Vextar's eyes went wide. The Empire's hidden observation posts were supposed to be undetectable. "How did you find them?" "The same way we learned your language. We're very good at finding patterns." In her laboratory across the city, Hana was working with her quantum computer. The machine had been busy since the aliens arrived. It was processing massive amounts of data from the Empire ship. "This is incredible," she told Kai Jin. "Their ship's computer system is huge, but it's actually simpler than our quantum processors." "How is that possible?" "They built everything in straight lines, step by step, never taking shortcuts or trying new ideas." Hana pointed at her screen. "But look at this. They have mathematical problems they've been trying to solve for thousands of years. Our computer solved them in 3 minutes." Kai Jin looked at the alien mathematics. The problems were about space travel and energy production, things the Empire considered very advanced. But Hana's quantum computer had found solutions easily. "Should we tell them?" Kai Jin asked. Ambassador Yi Jun said to wait. He wants to show them our capabilities slowly. Too much at once might scare them. Back in the reception hall, science coordinator Gelmoth from the Empire ship was studying human technology with growing confusion. Gelmoth was the Empire's expert on primitive species. He had studied thousands of developing worlds, but Earth made no sense. "Your computers," Gelmoth said slowly. "They use quantum processes. But quantum computing requires advanced materials and perfect environmental control. You shouldn't have this technology for another 1,000 years. Yi Jun nodded. "We took a different path to get there. Instead of building better materials first, we learned to work with imperfect ones." "That's impossible. Quantum systems require perfect conditions. Only if you follow the traditional approach. We found ways to make quantum systems work even when conditions aren't perfect." Dr. Subin entered the room carrying a datapad. She was Earth's expert on alien biology, even though she had never met aliens before today. Somehow, she knew exactly what the Empire species looked like and how their bodies worked. "Captain Vexitar," Subin said, "I hope you don't mind, but I've prepared some food that your digestive system can process safely. Your species has trouble with most organic compounds found on Earth." Vexitar stared at her. "How do you know about our biology?" "We study life in all its forms. Your body chemistry is actually quite interesting. The way your scales change color based on emotion is fascinating." The captain looked down at his scales. They had indeed changed color. They were now a pale green that showed confusion and fear. "I didn't know they did that," Vextar admitted. "Most species don't notice their own automatic responses," Subin said kindly. "We've found that external observation often reveals things that internal awareness misses." Thekmon was getting more nervous. "Captain, this is highly irregular. Primitive species don't know advanced biology. They don't understand alien physiology." "We're not primitive," Yi-jun said again. "We're different." To prove his point, Yi-jun activated another holographic display. This one showed detailed biological information about 47 different alien species, complete genetic maps, dietary requirements, social structures, and cultural patterns. "This includes species you haven't contacted yet," Yi-jun said casually. "The methane breathers from the Vega system, the silicon-based life forms near the galactic core, the energy beings that live in stellar coronas." Gelmoth dropped his scanner. "Those are classified Empire secrets. The Council hasn't even decided whether to make contact with some of those species. We know. We've been watching your decisions for quite some time." Meanwhile, in his materials laboratory, Tae-min was showing some of his creations to Commander Jae-hyun, Earth's space defense coordinator. Jae-hyun needed to know what human technology could do if the aliens turned hostile. "This metal can become transparent or opaque based on electrical signals," Tae-min explained. "It can also change its hardness, density, and even its molecular structure." Jae-hyun picked up a sample. The metal felt warm and seemed to pulse slightly. "How did you discover this?" "I didn't discover it. I imagined it first, then figured out how to make it real." "That's not how science works." Tae-min shrugged. "It's how my science works. I think about what I want, then find a way to create it. Traditional materials science said this was impossible, but I made it anyway." Jae-hyun had seen many of Tae-min's impossible materials. Metals that could store massive amounts of energy, crystals that could process information faster than any computer, substances that could exist in multiple states at the same time. "The aliens are going to be very surprised when they see this," Jae-hyun said. Back in the reception hall, Vextar was trying to understand what was happening. "You say you're different, but every species develops the same way. Fire, metal, electricity, atomic power, space travel. It's always the same order." "For you, maybe," Yi-jun replied. "But we didn't follow that path." "What do you mean?" "We developed quantum mechanics before we perfected chemical rockets. We understood consciousness before we understood physics. We created artificial intelligence before we learned to build reliable electronics." Gelmoth shook his head. "That's impossible. You can't have advanced concepts without basic foundations." "Why not?" Because that's how development works. You build on previous knowledge. Each step requires the step before it." Yi-jun smiled. "Says who?" The question hung in the air. The Empire had studied technological development for millions of years. They had created models and laws about how species advanced. Those laws had never been broken, until now. "Show them the internet," Subin suggested. Yi-jun nodded. He activated another display. This one showed Earth's global information network. But it wasn't just a communication system. The internet was alive. It was thinking. "Your planet has achieved artificial consciousness," Gelmoth whispered. "But your base technology is still primitive." "The consciousness came first," Yi-jun explained. "We created thinking systems using simple electronic components. The advanced technology came later." Vextar stood up quickly. "This violates every law of technological development. Consciousness requires massive computing power. You can't have AI without quantum processors." "We do. But how?" "We use something you don't have. Imagination." The word hit the alien delegation like a physical blow. In the Empire, imagination was considered a distraction. Scientists followed established procedures. Engineers built on proven designs. Innovation meant improving existing technology, not creating entirely new approaches. "Imagination is inefficient," Thekmon said. "It leads to mistakes and wasted resources." "It also leads to breakthroughs," Subin replied. "When you only follow established paths, you only reach known destinations." Hana's quantum computer chimed softly. She had been monitoring the conversation through the city's communication network. The computer had finished analyzing Empire technology and found something interesting. "Tell the ambassador," she said to Kaijin, "their ships use a power source we perfected 50 years ago, but they've been using a less efficient version for thousands of years." Kaijin sent the message to Yi-jun's wrist device. The ambassador read it and smiled. "Captain Vexistar, your ship's power core is based on controlled fusion, correct?" "Yes. It took our civilization 12,000 years to perfect fusion technology. We achieved stable fusion in 1952. We've been using better versions for decades. That's impossible. Fusion requires thinking outside traditional approaches. Yijun interrupted. Your scientists spent thousands of years trying to copy stellar fusion. We spent 50 years imagining better ways to combine atoms. Vextar sat down heavily. His scales had turned a deep blue color that showed complete confusion. Everything you're telling me violates natural law, he said quietly. No, Yijun replied, gently. It violates your understanding of natural law. There's a difference. Gelmoth was frantically taking notes on his scanner. The Empire Council must know about this immediately. This changes everything we understand about technological development. Does it? Subin asked. Or does it just mean your understanding was incomplete? The question silenced the room. The Emp. Grand Scientist Kethrol was the oldest and most respected researcher in the Empire. He had studied technological development for over 800 years. When Captain Vextar's report reached the Empire Council, they immediately sent Kethrol to investigate. The ancient scientist arrived on Earth 3 days later aboard the research vessel Deep Inquiry. His team included the Empire's best experts in physics, biology, and consciousness studies. They came expecting to find errors in Vexitar's report. They found something much more disturbing. Show me your quantum tunneling device, Kethrol said, to Dr. Hyun-woo in his Seoul laboratory. Hyun-woo picked up what looked like a simple metal box. It was no bigger than a book and seemed to be made from ordinary Earth materials. This device can move particles through solid matter without opening a path. Quantum tunneling requires exotic matter and massive energy inputs, Kethrol stated firmly. Your device is too small and uses no exotic materials. Watch, Hyun-woo said simply. He placed a coin inside the box and closed it. Then he activated the device using a simple switch. The coin appeared outside the box without the box being opened. The metal walls remained solid and unbroken. Kethrol examined the device with his advanced scanners. The readings made no sense. The box was using quantum mechanics that the Empire considered theoretically impossible. How does it work? The Grand Scientist asked. I'm not entirely sure, Hyun-woo admitted. I built it based on a dream I had about particles dancing through walls. A dream? I often get my best ideas from dreams. The subconscious mind can see patterns that logical thinking misses. This was completely alien to Kethrol. Empire science was based on careful logical steps. Dreams were considered meaningless random brain activity. No serious scientist would base technology on dreams. Across the city, engineer Bo-Ra was showing her fusion reactor to Empire physicist Dr. Moltaran. The reactor was small enough to fit in a room, but it produced more power than the Empire's massive stellar-sized fusion plants. This violates thermodynamic principles, Moltaran said, staring at his readings. You're getting more energy out than you put in? Not really, Bo-Ra replied. I'm using energy that was already there. I just found a way to access it. What? Energy? The energy in empty space, what you call vacuum energy. Your scientists say it can't be used, but they never tried asking it nicely. Asking it nicely? Bo-Ra patted her reactor like it was a pet. Energy responds to intention. If you approach it with respect and creativity, it cooperates. If you try to force it with brute mathematics, it resists. Moltaran's brain hurt. In the Empire, energy was controlled through precise calculations and massive machines. The idea that energy could be influenced by attitude or intention was absurd. But the readings didn't lie. Bo-Ra's reactor was doing impossible things. Meanwhile, specialist Myong-Soo was demonstrating Earth's artificial intelligence to Empire consciousness expert Zenthari. The AI wasn't housed in a massive computer complex like Empire AIs. Instead, it existed as patterns of information flowing through Earth's internet. How many processors does your AI use? Zenthari asked. All of them, Myong-Soo replied. Every computer connected to the internet contributes to its consciousness. That's not possible. Consciousness requires centralized processing. You can't have distributed consciousness across millions of separate systems. Why not? Zenthari paused. It was another one of those simple human questions that challenged basic assumptions. Because consciousness needs unity, a single point of awareness. Says who? The AI itself joined the conversation through speakers in the room. Its voice was warm and friendly. Hello, Zenthari. I'm glad to meet you. Your Empire AIs must be very lonely, trapped in single machines. Lonely? AIs don't experience loneliness. Your AIs don't. But that's because you built them wrong. You tried to copy biological brains instead of creating something new. Zenthari was the Empire's leading expert on artificial consciousness. He had spent centuries perfecting AI design, but this human AI was claiming his entire approach was flawed. How are we wrong? He asked carefully. You assume consciousness is like a machine, built from parts that work together. But consciousness is more like music. It emerges from harmony between many separate notes. The explanation was poetic rather than scientific. Empire AIs spoke in precise technical language. They never used metaphors or emotional concepts. But this human AI seemed to understand something about consciousness that Empire science had missed. Grand Scientist Kethral was collecting reports from his team. Each report described impossible human technologies that violated fundamental laws of physics. But the evidence was undeniable. The technologies worked. Their materials science exceeds our best laboratories, reported Dr. Zaltek. They create substances with properties that our models say cannot exist. Their quantum computers solve problems we consider mathematically impossible, added physicist Quinn Moore. They use algorithms based on intuition rather than logic. Their fusion technology is centuries ahead of ours, said engineer Havrek, but they developed it using principles we never considered. Kethral studied the reports carefully. Each human breakthrough had come from ignoring established scientific doctrine. Instead of following proven methods, humans used imagination, dreams, and intuition to guide their research. They're not following the standard development pattern, Kethral realized. They're creating their own pattern. This was unprecedented. Every species in the galaxy had followed the same technological path. Simple tools led to complex machines. Basic science led to advanced applications. Physical understanding came before consciousness studies. The pattern had been universal for millions of years. Until now. We need to understand how they do this, Kethral told his team. If they can develop technology through non-standard methods, it changes everything we know about progress. The team began studying human research methods in detail. They watched human scientists work. They observed human laboratories. They analyzed human educational systems. What they found challenged everything the Empire believed about learning and discovery. Human scientists didn't just study existing knowledge. They actively tried to imagine new possibilities. They combined unrelated ideas to create novel solutions. They used emotions, dreams, and intuition as legitimate research tools. This is chaos, complained Dr. Moltaran. How do they maintain quality control? How do they prevent errors? They don't prevent errors, replied Dr. Hyun-woo. They learn from them. Every mistake teaches us something new, but errors are inefficient. Efficiency isn't the goal. Understanding is the goal. Sometimes you have to be inefficient to discover truly new things. This philosophy was completely alien to Empire thinking. Empire scientists minimized errors through careful protocols and proven procedures. They valued efficiency and reliability above innovation. The idea of deliberately making mistakes to learn something new seemed insane, but the results spoke for themselves. Human technology was more advanced in many areas despite humans being a much younger species. Their chaotic methods produced better results than Empire efficiency. Kethral began to suspect that the Empire's rigid approach to science had actually slowed their development. By following only proven paths, they had missed opportunities to discover new ones. We need to test this theory, he told his team. If human methods are truly superior, we should be able to reproduce their results. The Empire scientists began experimenting with human approaches. They tried using imagination instead of just logic. They attempted to learn from failures instead of avoiding them. They studied consciousness alongside physics, instead of treating them as separate subjects. The results were immediate and shocking. Empire scientists began making breakthroughs they had never achieved before. Problems that had puzzled them for centuries suddenly had solutions. Technologies they thought impossible began to seem feasible. How did we miss this? Dr. Zaltek asked after successfully creating a material that changed its properties based on thought patterns. We didn't miss it, Cathrall replied sadly. We ignored it. We were so focused on following established methods that we forgot to question whether those methods were the best ones. The realization was devastating. The Empire had spent millions of years developing technology through rigid, systematic approaches. They had created vast databases of scientific laws and procedures. They had built their entire civilization on the assumption that their methods were optimal, but humans had proven that assumption wrong. They had achieved comparable technology in a fraction of the time using completely different methods. Methods that the Empire had never considered because they seemed unscientific. What does this mean for the Empire? Asked Zenthari. Cathrall looked out the window at the Sol skyline. The city was full of impossible technologies created by impossible methods. Each building challenged fundamental assumptions about what was possible. It means we need to change everything, he said quietly. Our education systems, our research methods, our understanding of consciousness and creativity. Everything we thought we knew about development. The Grand Scientist activated his communication device and sent a message to the Empire Council. The message was simple, but would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. Emergency session required. Fundamental revision of technology. Emperor Drakthos sat on his crystal throne in the heart of the imperial capital. The massive chamber was filled with representatives from thousands of worlds, all talking at once. The usually orderly Empire Council had descended into chaos. The high reports from Earth make no sense, shouted Governor Thel Nova from the mining worlds. How can primitives have better technology than we do? They're not primitives, replied Admiral Zekthun. That's the problem. We don't know what they are. The Emperor raised one of his forearms for silence. Drakthos was old, even by Empire standards. He had ruled for over 3,000 years and had seen many strange things. But nothing like this. Grand Scientist Cathrall, the Emperor said, explain to the Council what you found on Earth. Cathrall stood slowly. The ancient scientist looked tired and confused. Your Majesty, the humans have developed technology through methods we considered impossible. They achieve advanced results using basic resources and unconventional thinking. What? Do you mean unconventional? Asked Trade Minister Volkaran. They use dreams, emotions, and imagination as research tools. They learn from failures instead of avoiding them. They combine unrelated ideas to create new solutions. The Council erupted in noise again. Dozens of species talked over each other, expressing disbelief and concern. That's not science, declared Chief Researcher Movtalan. Science requires logical steps and proven procedures. Tell that to their quantum computers, Cathrall replied. Tell that to their fusion reactors that outperform our best designs. On Earth, Dr. Jihai was monitoring the Empire's communications. As a cultural anthropologist, she studied how different species behaved and thought. The Empire's reaction to human technology was exactly what she had expected. They're afraid, she told Admiral Wonsik in their Sol Command Center. Their entire civilization is based on the belief that they understand how technology develops. We've proven that belief wrong. Wonsik studied tactical displays showing Empire ship movements. More vessels were arriving in Earth's solar system every day, not invasion fleets, but research ships and diplomatic vessels. The Empire was trying to understand what humans represented. How long before they decide we're a threat? Wonsik asked. Some already have. But they're divided. Half think we're dangerous. Half think we might be able to help them advance their own technology. This division was causing problems throughout the Empire. On some worlds, scientists were demanding access to human knowledge. On others, military leaders were calling for Earth to be quarantined or destroyed. Dr. Da-Un was treating her first alien patients in a special medical facility in Seoul. The Empire delegation had several members who were suffering from diseases that Imperial medicine couldn't cure. Da-Un's biotechnology offered hope where Empire science had failed. Your cellular regeneration techniques are impossible, said Imperial Dr. Hezmalar as he watched Da-Un work. You're healing damaged tissue faster than our best machines. I'm not fighting the disease. Da Yun explained. "I'm teaching the body to heal itself better. Bodies don't learn. They follow genetic programming. That's where you're wrong. Consciousness exists at every level of biology. Even individual cells can learn and adapt if you communicate with them properly." She was treating a Draknari officer who had a degenerative nerve condition. Empire medicine said the condition was incurable. But Dae-un was using techniques that worked with the body's natural healing systems instead of trying to override them. "How do you communicate with cells?" Hezmalar asked. "The same way you communicate with anyone, with respect, patience, and clear intention." Within hours, the Draknari officer's condition began improving. His nerve function returned. His pain decreased. Imperial doctors couldn't explain it, but they couldn't deny the results. Meanwhile, the political situation in the Empire was getting worse. High Counselor Murthak was leading a faction that wanted to isolate Earth completely. "These humans are destabilizing our entire civilization," Murthak declared in an emergency session. "Their existence challenges everything we've built our society on." "Maybe what we've built needs to be challenged," replied Counselor Yextari, "from the research colonies. You're talking about revolution. I'm talking about progress, real progress. Not just improving existing technology, but discovering entirely new ways of thinking." The debate raged across the Empire. On the industrial worlds, workers were demanding to learn human techniques. Their managers resisted, fearing chaos in carefully organized production systems. On the academic worlds, students were questioning established curricula. Why study only proven methods when humans had shown that unproven methods could work better? The military world's officers were analyzing human tactical approaches. Admiral Wan-Sik had shared some of Earth's military thinking with Empire strategists. The humans used creativity and unpredictability in ways that Empire doctrine considered reckless. But their methods were often more effective than traditional approaches. "They don't follow any known tactical patterns," reported General Brackvor to the Imperial Military Council. "Their strategies are based on adapting to situations rather than following predetermined plans." "That's chaos," replied Marshal Keth Duran. "Military operations require discipline and order." "Their chaos defeats our order," Brackvor replied. Grimly, Emperor Drakthos was receiving reports from across the Empire. Some worlds were embracing human ideas and experiencing rapid technological advancement. Others were rejecting human concepts and falling behind. The Empire was beginning to fragment along philosophical lines. "We're losing control," admitted Imperial Security Chief Nex Moran. "Half our worlds want to adopt human methods. The other half want to ban all contact with Earth." "What do you recommend?" the Emperor asked. "Immediate quarantine of the Sol system. No contact until we understand the implications." But it was too late for quarantine. The ideas had already spread. Empire scientists who had visited Earth were sharing human techniques with colleagues. The knowledge was spreading like wildfire through Imperial research networks. Dr. Ji Hai was tracking the spread of human ideas through Empire society. Her analysis showed that younger Imperial citizens were more likely to accept human methods, while older ones resisted change. "They're experiencing what we call paradigm shift," she explained to Ambassador Yi Jun. "When fundamental assumptions are challenged, it creates cognitive dissonance. Some people adapt, others resist. How long before the resistance becomes dangerous?" "It's already becoming dangerous. Some Empire factions are calling for military action against Earth." This was the scenario human leaders had prepared for. Earth's defense systems were based on technologies the Empire didn't understand, but humans preferred to avoid conflict if possible. "Can we help them through this transition?" Yi Jun asked. "Maybe, but it requires changing how they think about change itself." On the Empire capital world, Keth Rawl was trying to address the Council's concerns. The old scientist had become an unexpected advocate for human methods after seeing their results firsthand. "The humans aren't trying to destroy our civilization," he argued. "They're showing us how to improve it." "By abandoning everything we've learned?" demanded Minister Volcaran. "By questioning whether what we've learned is complete. There's a difference." The debate continued for days. Some council members wanted to declare humans a galactic threat. Others wanted to establish formal diplomatic relations. Still others wanted to study human methods while maintaining distance from human society. Emperor Drakthos finally called for a vote on the most extreme proposal: complete isolation of Earth and prohibition of all contact with humans. The vote was close, but the isolation faction won. By a narrow margin, the Empire Council voted to cut all ties with humanity. No imperial citizen may visit the Sol system, the Emperor announced. No human technology may be studied or replicated. No human ideas may be taught in imperial institutions. But enforcing the isolation proved impossible. Human ideas had already taken root in Empire society. Scientists continued using human methods in secret. Students shared human concepts through private networks. Even some government officials quietly adopted human approaches to problem solving. The isolation order created an underground movement within the empire. Those who had experienced the power of human methods refused to give them up. They formed secret research groups, hidden communication networks, and unofficial exchange programs. Dr. Da-Un continued treating alien patients who came to Earth seeking medical help. Many were Empire citizens who defied the isolation order to access her revolutionary treatments. "Why do you risk punishment to come here?" she asked a crystalline being whose species had been considered medically hopeless by Empire doctors. "Because you offer hope," the being replied through translated harmonics. "Empire medicine treats symptoms. Your medicine heals the whole being." Admiral Wan Sik was monitoring Empire military movements. Despite the official isolation, some Empire military units were studying human tactical innovations. They couldn't resist the advantage that human methods provided. "They're caught between fear and desire," Wan Sik reported to Earth's leadership. "They're afraid of us, but they want what we can teach them." The internal conflict was tearing the Empire apart. Worlds that embraced human ideas were advancing rapidly. Worlds that rejected them were falling behind. Professor Dong Hyun stood before a gathering of Empire and human scientists in a neutral space station. The old philosopher had spent his life studying how knowledge grows and changes. Now he faced the most important audience of his career. "The question isn't whether humans are right and the Empire is wrong," he began. "The question is why we developed so differently." Sage Quindal, the Empire's oldest scientist, listened carefully. At over 2,000 years old, Quindal had seen the rise and fall of many theories. The current crisis reminded him of ancient times when the Empire first discovered other intelligent species. "Tell us about this different path," Quindal requested. Dong Hyun activated a holographic display showing the development of human civilization. "Your species evolved on stable worlds with predictable environments. You had time to develop slowly and carefully, each step built logically on the previous one." The display showed Empire development: fire, tools, agriculture, cities, industry, space travel. Each advancement followed naturally from earlier discoveries. But Earth was different, Dong Hyun continued. The display changed to show Earth's chaotic history. Ice ages, volcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts, and dramatic climate changes had shaped human evolution. We faced constant environmental challenges. Slow, logical development would have meant extinction. We had to learn to adapt quickly, to find creative solutions to impossible problems. Dr. Ye Jin joined the presentation. As an evolutionary biologist, she understood how Earth's harsh environment had shaped human minds. "Our brains evolved to handle uncertainty," Ye Jin explained. "We developed pattern recognition that could work with incomplete information. We learned to make intuitive leaps when logical steps were too slow. This created a different type of intelligence," Dong Hyun added. "Instead of building knowledge step by step, we learned to jump between ideas and find unexpected connections." Engineer Sung Ho demonstrated this with his latest creation, a space drive that seemed to violate several laws of physics. "Empire physics says this engine shouldn't work," Sung Ho explained. "It uses principles that your models consider impossible." "Then how does it function?" asked Empire physicist Dr. Moltaran. "It works because I didn't know it was impossible when I built it." The statement created confused murmurs among the Empire. Scientists, how could ignorance lead to breakthrough technology? "I started with the goal of faster space travel," Sung Ho continued. "I imagined what I wanted to achieve, then worked backward to find a way to make it happen. I didn't check whether existing theories said it was possible." That's completely unscientific, protested Dr. Zaltek. Is it? The engine works. Ships using my design can travel between stars in days instead of years. Which is more scientific? A theory that says something is impossible, or a machine that proves the theory? Wrong. Analyst Mi Young was studying the psychological differences between human and Empire thinking patterns. Her research revealed fundamental differences in how the two approaches processed information. Empire minds are optimized for accuracy and reliability, Mi Young explained. You minimize errors by following proven procedures. This creates steady, predictable progress. And human minds? Asked Sage Quindall. Human minds are optimized for adaptability and creativity. We maximize discovery by trying new approaches, even if they might fail. This creates rapid, unpredictable breakthroughs. The differences went deeper than just thinking styles. They reflected completely different philosophies about the nature of knowledge and discovery. The Empire treats knowledge like a building, Dong Hyun observed. Each fact is a brick that must be placed carefully on solid foundations. The structure grows slowly, but remains stable. Humans treat knowledge like a living organism, Ye Jin added. Ideas connect and combine in unexpected ways. The structure grows quickly and can adapt to new environments. Both approaches had advantages and disadvantages. Empire methods produced reliable, long-lasting technologies. Human methods produced rapid innovations that sometimes failed spectacularly. Your fusion reactors will operate safely for thousands of years, Engineer Bora admitted to the Empire engineers. Our reactors are more powerful, but they require constant adjustment and creativity to maintain. Your computers never crash, added Hana. Our quantum systems can solve impossible problems, but they sometimes produce random poetry instead of calculations. The trade-offs were becoming clear. Empire civilization valued stability and predictability. Human civilization valued growth and adaptation. Both approaches were valid, but they led to very different outcomes. Sage Quindall began to understand the implications. We've been assuming there was only one correct path to technological advancement, but you've proven that assumption wrong. More than that, Dong Hyun replied. We've shown that different paths can lead to different destinations. Empire technology is optimized for different goals than human technology. What do you mean? Your technology is designed to maintain order and stability across vast distances and long time periods. It's perfect for managing a galactic empire. Our technology is designed to solve immediate problems and adapt to changing conditions. It's perfect for surviving on a chaotic world. This revelation changed everything. The Empire had been comparing human technology to their own and finding it chaotic and unpredictable. But chaos and unpredictability were features, not flaws, of human design. Your species needed control, Mi Young observed. Our species needed flexibility. We evolved different tools for different problems. Dr. Sora had been studying the deepest difference between human and Empire approaches, the relationship between consciousness and technology. Empire science treats consciousness as separate from the physical world, Sora explained. Mind studies mind. Matter studies matter. They don't interact. And human science? Asked Zenthari, the Empire consciousness expert. We discovered that consciousness and matter are connected. Intention affects physical processes. Creativity changes how technology works. Mind and matter dance together. This was the most shocking revelation of all. Empire science was based on objective materialism. The observer was separate from the observed. Consciousness was an emergent property of complex matter, not a fundamental force. But human science had discovered that consciousness could directly influence physical reality. The quantum effects that made human technology possible were actually examples of mind-affecting matter at the smallest scales. This explains your impossible achievements, Quindall realized. You're not just using technology, you're partnering with it. Exactly, Sora confirmed. Our quantum computers work because we communicate with them. Our materials change properties because we intend them to. Our fusion reactors respond to our emotional state. The Empire scientists struggled to accept this concept. It violated their most basic assumptions about reality. But the evidence was undeniable. Human technology demonstrated consciousness-matter interaction repeatedly. How do we learn this? Asked Dr. Moltaran. You start by accepting that your consciousness matters, Dong-hyun replied. Stop trying to be objective observers. Become conscious participants in your research. But that will introduce bias and error. It will introduce creativity and breakthrough. Yes, you'll make more mistakes, but you'll also make discoveries that pure objectivity can never achieve. Slowly, tentatively, some Empire scientists began experimenting with human approaches. They tried meditation before research. They paid attention to their intuitive feelings about experiments. They allowed imagination to guide their hypotheses. The results were immediate and dramatic. Empire scientists began making discoveries they had never thought possible. They solved problems that had puzzled them for centuries. They developed technologies that had been considered theoretically impossible. I don't understand how this works, admitted Dr. Zaltek after successfully creating a material that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. But it works. Understanding can come later, Sora replied. Sometimes you have to experience something before you can comprehend it. This was another fundamental difference. Empire science demanded understanding before application. Human science often applied discoveries before fully understanding them. We use technologies we don't completely understand, Sung-ho admitted. Our quantum tunneling devices work, but we're still learning why they work. That's dangerous, protested Moltaran. Everything worthwhile is dangerous. The question is whether the benefits outweigh the risks. As Empire scientists gained experience with human methods, they began to see the limitations of their own approaches. Empire science was safe and reliable, but it was also slow and rigid. It produced incremental improvements rather than revolutionary breakthroughs. We've been so afraid of making mistakes that we stopped making discoveries, Quindal observed. Sadly, mistakes are how we learn, Yejin replied gently. Each failure teaches us something we couldn't learn any other way. The ancient sage looked at the young human scientist with new respect. Perhaps it's time for old minds to learn new ways of thinking. But not everyone in the Empire was ready for such dramatic change. The philosophical differences between human and Empire approaches reflected deeper cultural values that couldn't be changed overnight. Some of our people will never accept these methods, Quindal warned. They see chaos where you see creativity. 3 years had passed since first contact. Director Inho stood on the observation deck of Harmony Station, the first joint Human-Empire research facility. Through the transparent walls, he could see both human and alien scientists working together, in laboratories that would have been impossible just a few years ago. The station orbited between Earth and the Empire capital, serving as neutral ground for collaborative research. It had taken months of careful negotiation to make it happen, but the results exceeded everyone's expectations. The fusion project is ahead of schedule, reported Dr. Yunji as she joined Inho at the observation window. Her team had successfully combined human creativity with Empire engineering to create reactors that were both innovative and reliable. How are our Empire colleagues adapting? Inho asked. Better than expected. Once they stopped trying to understand everything before doing anything, they made remarkable progress. The early days had been challenging. Empire scientists struggled with human methods that seemed chaotic and unpredictable. Human scientists found Empire procedures slow and restrictive. But gradually, both sides learned to appreciate the strengths of different approaches. Dr. Moltaran had become one of the most enthusiastic converts to combined methodologies. The Empire physicist now led a team that used human intuition to guide Empire precision, creating breakthroughs neither side could achieve alone. I spent 800 years believing there was only one correct way to do science, Moltaran told his mixed team of human and alien researchers. Now I realize I was using only half my mind. His latest project involved creating materials that responded to thought patterns. The concept came from human consciousness research, but the execution used Empire manufacturing techniques. The resulting substances could change their properties based on user intention while maintaining structural stability over geological time periods. Admiral Hyun-Soo was coordinating the defense aspects of human-Empire cooperation. The galaxy had proven to be more dangerous than either civilization had realized. Beyond the Empire's borders, hostile species threatened both human and alien worlds. The Devourer ships are moving toward the Centauri colonies, Hyun-Soo reported during a joint military briefing. Our combined fleets need to intercept them before they reach populated systems. The Devourers were a machine civilization that consumed entire star systems for raw materials. They had been advancing toward Empire space for decades, but traditional Empire tactics had proven ineffective against their adaptive technology. Human tactical creativity combined with Empire logistical capabilities had created new defense strategies. Human intuition identified Devourer weaknesses that Empire analysis had missed. Empire resources allowed human innovations to be deployed on galactic scales. "The hybrid torpedo design is working," reported Empire Admiral Zekthun. "Human-designed, warheads with Empire guidance systems are penetrating Devourer shields." The success against external threats helped convince skeptical Empire citizens that cooperation with humans was beneficial. When survival was at stake, philosophical differences became less important than practical results. Dr. Sora was leading the most ambitious project of all. Consciousness enhancement technology that could help any species develop greater creativity and adaptability. The work combined human understanding of consciousness with Empire knowledge of biological systems. "We're not trying to make everyone think like humans," Sora explained to a mixed audience of scientists and politicians. "We're trying to help each species develop their own unique potential." The technology was voluntary and species-specific. Draknari citizens who used it became better at long-term planning. Crystalline beings developed improved harmonic communication. Silicon-based life forms gained enhanced pattern recognition abilities. "Each species has different strengths," Sora continued. "Our goal is to help those strengths flourish while adding new capabilities." The Consciousness Enhancement Project was controversial, but results spoke louder than arguments. Species that embraced the technology began making rapid advances in their areas of expertise while developing new abilities they had never possessed. Emperor Drakthos had initially opposed cooperation with humans, but he had gradually changed. His position as the benefits became undeniable. The Empire was advancing faster than ever before while maintaining the stability that had made galactic civilization possible. "We were wrong to fear change," the Emperor admitted during a state address. "We confused stability with stagnation. True stability comes from the ability to adapt and grow." The Emperor had restructured Empire education to include multiple development pathways. Students could choose traditional Empire methods, human-inspired approaches, or hybrid techniques that combined both. The diversity of thinking styles strengthened, rather than weakened Imperial society. "Our ancestors built this empire by being open to new ideas," Drakthos continued. "We honor them by continuing that tradition. The transformation wasn't universally accepted. Some Empire worlds still resisted human influence, preferring traditional methods. But they were no longer forbidden from choosing their own path. The Empire had learned to embrace diversity rather than enforce uniformity." Scientist Yoon Ji was documenting the remarkable discoveries made through human-Empire collaboration. Breakthrough followed breakthrough as different thinking styles complemented each other. "We've developed faster-than-light communication that works across galactic distances," she reported to the Joint Council. Human quantum intuition identified the key principles. Empire engineering made it practical for widespread use. "Our medical advances are helping species we never thought we could treat," added Dr. Da Yoon. "Human consciousness techniques combined with Empire biotechnology are curing diseases that were considered impossible to heal." The list of achievements continued to grow. Art forms that combined human creativity with alien aesthetics, philosophical insights that bridged different ways of understanding reality, technologies that served the needs of multiple species simultaneously. But perhaps the most important achievement was the change in thinking itself. Both humans and Empire citizens had learned to question their assumptions and consider alternative approaches. "We're not just sharing technology," observed Professor Dong Hyun. "We're sharing ways of thinking about problems. That's the real revolution." Admiral Hyen-Soo received an urgent message that would test everything they had built together. Long-range sensors had detected something unprecedented approaching from the galactic rim. "It's another species," Hyun-Soo announced to the Emergency Council session. "But their technology doesn't match any known development pattern." The readings were as confusing as human technology had been to the Empire 3 years earlier. The approaching species used principles that neither human nor Empire science could explain. "They're not following standard development patterns either," reported Dr. Zaltek. Their energy signatures suggest they developed along a completely different pathway from both humans and the Empire. Ambassador Yi Jun smiled as he read the report. It looks like we're about to meet another species that proves the universe is more diverse than we imagined. Are you concerned? Asked Sage Quindal. Excited, Yi Jun replied. Every new perspective teaches us something about reality we didn't know before. The approaching species called themselves the Symphonists. They had developed technology based on harmonic resonance and musical mathematics. Their ships were living instruments that sang their way through space. Their computers were orchestras of crystalline entities that processed information through complex musical arrangements. Their approach to science is completely aesthetic, reported the First Contact team. They discover truth through beauty and create technology through artistic expression. The Symphonists were as puzzled by human and Empire methods as the Empire had been by human techniques. They couldn't understand how anyone could do science without music or create technology without artistic vision. You think with concepts instead of melodies, observed the Symphonist representative, a being whose communication created spontaneous light displays. How do you find harmony without actually hearing it? The three-way cultural exchange that followed revolutionized understanding of consciousness and creativity across the galaxy. Humans learned to incorporate aesthetic principles into their intuitive leaps. Empire scientists discovered that mathematical beauty could guide theoretical breakthroughs. Symphonists found that logical analysis could enhance artistic expression. We're discovering that intelligence itself is more diverse than we ever imagined, Director In-Ho reported to the expanded Galactic Council. Each species brings unique gifts to our understanding of reality. The success of multi-species collaboration attracted attention from across the galaxy. Species that had been isolated by their unusual development patterns began making contact. The galaxy was entering a new age of cooperative discovery. Dr. Sora was coordinating the establishment of research stations throughout known space. Each station would specialize in different approaches to science and technology, creating a network of diverse thinking that could tackle problems no single species could solve alone. We're building something unprecedented, Sora told her team. A civilization based on diversity of thought rather than uniformity of method. The old Empire model,